call it. All the select board are present. Consent agenda warrant number 57, 7/27/20. Number 58, 7/27/2020. Number 2, 7/27/2020. Number 3, 7/27/2020. Payroll register number 30, 7/23/2020. Number 31, 7/30/2020. And number 32, 8/6/2020.
So moved as read.
Second.
The motion and a second on the warrants and payroll registers as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes of July 27, 2020.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of July 27, 2020. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mr. Savage. Mrs. Dwyer. Mr. Dopian. Mr. Moody. Item communication, Mr. Town Manager.
All right, a couple of things. I want you to know that I've been in contact with Mitch and Barbara Young. We have a couple in New Hampshire that own 76 Old Point right out here. At the last board meeting, the selectmen had decided to hold a public hearing on August 24th to determine whether or not that building was a dangerous building and those code violations need to be fixed. In our emails back and forth, they've explained their situation, and they have assured me that these things are going to be fixed. And I said that's great, and I encouraged them to have someone either come to attend or attend via Zoom for the select board meeting on the 24th of August. So that would be a public hearing that we also promote by Zoom. So prior to the previous assessors meeting, I touched on this a little bit, but just for the public, the town's become aware that White Auto Body out on Lakewood Road, 957 Lakewood Road, they have an intention of building a scrapyard for their body shop. So Ben White, he talked with me about this last year. I told him the process that he needs to go through. He needs to send an application to the town. According to our ordinance, chapter 154, that application is to be reviewed by you, the Board of Selectmen. And so I thought he understood what we said, but it came to my attention that he's cleared trees, he's brought in fill, he's built a fence, and he's already started acquiring some junk cars. I asked him where his application was. He said that they're working on it. I said you can't do anything else until we have that application to get started. Our ordinances have very little teeth in the way of penalties. He will pay a penalty for starting that fence project without a permit, but that's really a minor penalty. But I wanted you to know that application will be coming to you. It would be my recommendation that you involve the planning board in it somehow, since they have a little more experience in this. Wanted you to know that GoLab is going to be putting up some banners and putting up some signage at the old Madison paper site, so people will start to see some activity there. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done before they are at a stage where they're able to hire people. So
That's Bancroft there today.
Yep. And we'll see lots of activity probably around the old specialty minerals building over the next couple of weeks.
Are they getting any closer to the funds that they're looking for?
Every day they come up with another approach. And so it's difficult because, we can blame everything on the COVID-19 situation, but many of the banks that they were lined up with pulled back because they weren't going to do any loans to startup companies. So, I wanted the board to know that we've signed up with KB Cog to be a test site for a fabric and textiles recycling Dropbox. Pretty simple. We'll have a box at the town office outside. If people have clothes or old fabrics they want to recycle, they can put them in the box. And this company that's somewhere in Maine comes and picks them up. And if it's usable clothes, they distribute them to the different places that give people clothes, or Goodwill or that sort of thing. If they're not usable, or if they're dirty or soiled, they break them down and recycle the fibers. So one's going to be at the town office, one's going to be at the Calvary Pentecostal Church on Old Point, heading out of town here, because they have a clothes closet ministry. And this is a way for them to take in donations or whatever they can't use, they can recycle. So if this goes well, it could be a pretty good idea. So we're a test site.
How often, go ahead.
How often are they going to come and pick up?
I will know tomorrow, because tomorrow we're getting the boxes dropped off. I believe it's weekly, maybe bi-weekly, I'm not sure.
What kind of container are you talking about?
It's 6 feet tall, 3.5, 3.5, and it's got a big like door or window where you put the items in. And just like everything else, you gotta make sure that trash doesn't get
I was gonna say, how long is it gonna take to avoid that throwing trash?
Well, hopefully not. No. But again, this is the pickup and the maintenance. That's not our responsibility. It's another company.
How often are they gonna pick that?
We'll see. I don't know off the top of my head. Just wanted you to be aware of that.
Yep.
The other thing I think I put in your packets was a couple of invoices from Faith Gogan. She owns the Wicked Lettuce store at the corner, the old Western Auto Building. So these invoices total about $11,000 that she spent on painting that building. And I didn't have, it came in after the agenda, so there's not an agenda item here, but I told her I would ask if you wanted to entertain a motion to release the $5,000 in matching grant funds. We could process that now rather than later.
Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion. We go ahead. Second.
All right, a motion and a second to pay the $5,000 grant money to Wicked Lettuce, Faith Gogan. Any questions?
Are they gonna paint more of the building, do you know?
So I believe they're finished for now, which means they have come all the way around. For a while there, over the winter, it left one side unpainted. So they have finished painting that. So I think what you see now is the finished product for that.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
Pass this out. That's a fire department.
I do have a question on the Lakewood Road project.
Yes.
Are you going to get the planning board involved in that, or we have to start that process?
You, by ordinance, you have to start it.
Okay, and that's just with junkyards?
Yep.
Okay.
So there's a whole separate ordinance
I wanted
on
to
that.
have a fancy term for that, but I couldn't come up with
Well, that's what the ordinance is,
Yeah.
junkyard. So.
one. Yeah, okay. So,
But I think, I've been talking with Mary Tomlinson about it.
okay.
And so I think at least she would be willing to zoom in if there was anyone that was interested.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, new business. Number one, department head reports. We have the police, it was sent to us today. You have the fire in your hands. Any questions for those two? Seeing none, we'll go to the highway department. Mr. Road Commissioner?
Yeah, we have been graveling some roads and fixing some roads up, getting ready for pavement. I don't know if you are aware of where the Robbins Road is, out to 12 Corners, that goes up over the hill into the two farmhouses. We gravelled and rebuilt that road. It's a little under 700 feet, and gravelled, surface gravelled 1,200 feet of the Bagley Road, which is the connecting road between East Madison Road and Route 43. Been doing some prep work down the Father Rowell Road to get it ready for pavement next week, and also along with the Schuster Road and the Walker Road, and we'll be heading out to the River Road probably tomorrow and do some ditching out there. Trying out some new loaders. I don't know if anybody's been up by the garage lately. There's a few new loaders sitting in the yard up there. We're going to be trying them out in the coming weeks to see which one we'd like to purchase that will best fit our bill. Any questions?
Sound good. Any questions? All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, number two, discuss plans for November election.
All right. Town clerk is here. I'm gonna do a light introduction and then she's got the show for the next hour. Yeah?
Be by herself.
She'll be by herself. So, what we experienced in July was the first election in a COVID world where there were a ton of new requirements from the state. You had to be separated. You had to have only allow certain people working, a certain number of people. And As you recall, when we had that election on that Tuesday, we didn't operate any other business in the town office that day because there was just too many restrictions. So normally somebody would come, they'd vote, and then they'd register their vote, or register their vote. Well, they couldn't do that because we were shut down to regular business. And we were surprised. All the efforts that were done to try to get people to vote absentee, it was pretty good. 251 people voted absentee. That's pretty good. Well, we didn't expect 661 people to show up and vote on that day. So Kathy and her team, her staff were overwhelmed with a sort of complicated July ballot election. After that election, Kathy and I talked. She came to me and said, we can't do the same thing in November. You're anticipating a much higher turnout. Just to give you an idea, in the 2016 presidential election, you had a lot of people absentee and vote early, but you still had 2,000 people come through the fire department. So if we anticipate that to be the same with the social distancing in November, it's going to be a mess, and it's going to be overwhelming to what we're trying to do. So we've discussed utilizing this space down here at Old Point for a polling station. In other words, this is where you hold your elections going forward. Not just the November election, but actually spending a significant amount of money to renovate this building to be able to facilitate the number of people that will come through and not put the burden on fire department, town office, and that staff there. So there's quite a bit of work to be done, but that's the proposal that I want the board just to kind of wrap their head around at this point.
So if that's the case, then the town office will still be open for business.
That would certainly be the intention.
That would be the intention. We have enough people here.
Okay.
Scooty.
Could you just highlight what you're planning on
Lady Kathy's going to do that. Kathy,
renovating?
Kathy, you want to highlight? Or you want Tim to?
Well, so we have guidelines that we obviously have to meet, okay? I mean, they're requirements. You gotta have ADA accessibility, so there's some doors that need to be done. The parking lot area needs to be done. We need some ramps that meet the qualifications. We need doorways in here to be widened to meet qualifications. And so it wouldn't even matter if we just did it for the November election. This November election is going to be chaotic. It really needs a different space in the fire station. We still have to do, those requirements still have to be met no matter where you go. That you have to meet those by the elections standards. So I think that's pretty much, I mean, there is a lot, you notice there's some tiles that needed to be replaced on some of the floors and stuff. It could be it could be very usable, and it would be probably an asset for the future too. I mean, the fire department has often complained, rightfully so, because their fire trucks in November have to get taken out of the fire station, and the tanker has to be put up in the garage so then they have different locations they have to go to get their equipment. They have to always come to the fire station to get suited up, and then they have to go and go up to maybe, the garage or whatever. They would have to do that. I mean, it hasn't happened recently, but still, that's always been a concern.
So I want to just, maybe this will answer some of your anticipated questions. The largest dollar amount to be spent down here will be this parking. And some of you have been in this parking lot for years, some of you have been here for a couple of weeks, you know it's bad. And if you're going to have people, up to 2,000 people, park, walk back to their cars, they can't be stepping over chunks of asphalt and falling into dips and so forth. So that's got to be done. Jeff has already started some work on getting some ideas and quotes of what can be done and how much that will cost. The biggest thing in here is to try to funnel traffic in a way that they come in this side of the building, come down this hallway here. They wouldn't mess with the old part, so they'd come in by the Channel 11 entrance, which would be refit to a handicapped entrance. So that door out there, if you notice, the doors swing out, just like they did when we went to school here. The doors swing out and there's a bar in the middle. So we're talking about taking those doors out and replacing them with newer doors or perhaps one large door that opens. People would then be funneled into this room here, and this is where you do your voter registration and also your checking in and getting your ballot and so forth. And then you talk about maybe putting a large double door on this wall here to allow people to go into the next room over there. That's where they would be polling. That's where you'd have your ballot booths set up. They would exit that room and exit out the further entrance down there, which would also have a new doorway in it. So significant changes, but not impossible to do in 3 months. I've talked to the Girl Scouts that have operated out of this room for years. They've already relocated their cookies. Had nothing to do with me eating the cookies. But they relocated their cookies a year ago, and I've talked to them, and some of the materials they've had, they've already cleaned it up. So they know that this room here, if you were to use this room on the other side as your unofficial election headquarters, you'd be able to lock that door, and Kathy would be able to keep a lot of her election-related equipment and information locked up in that room and have that as a secure area. This room could continue to be used for meetings. It would only be used on election day for the traffic coming through. So that's our initial thoughts and plans right now.
When we talked before, you mentioned about one room as opposed to 2 rooms. I mean, is that something you have to?
One room down here.
Well, you had to make this basically one room. So it looks
I have
like
to make it one room. This room, it can't be, we had talked about just doing a wider door so that people could go in and, get into that other space, but they can't do that because it has to be visible. It's part of the election. It has to be visible for anybody that wants to watch what is happening in the polling place. They would be in this area out here, but they have to be able to see what's going on there. You have to have it visible to the public.
you gotta see your people checking people in,
You guys,
plus
plus you
people
have to see
voting.
people out there who's voting.
Yeah. Now, when we did it at the fire station this time, and we're anticipating it's gonna be the same regulations in November that we had in July, we could get how many people at a time voting?
We had 6 booths in there.
Okay, so
I
At 2,000
anticipate
people,
out
that's
there
gonna
we
be
should
a
be
long
able to
time.
get 12 to keep the space and to keep that space. Plus, you have more space inside, at least for the people that are waiting,
Yeah.
rather than like at town office, you don't have, it's a shorter space to keep people inside. In November, it's gonna be cold and
Yeah. The other thing out in the parking lot, we're gonna have to put some lights up. I mean, by that time in November, it's probably gonna be dark by 6,
Probably by that,
5.
at that point, we'll have to have lights on the entrance and signs, that we talk about signage on both the entrance and the exit.
We're not ready to fall down. That probably would not be good for us. Any questions?
Where are we digging this money at?
Well, we have the Ron Moody retirement fund.
Oh, yeah? I mean, there's still some left?
You know all those things that George always complained about signing that he never read? That's where we tapped into your fund.
No hitting.
So later on the agenda, we're going to talk about carry forward amounts, and you're going to see some significant changes in carry forwards. That's where we're anticipating getting a lot of the funding for this. There are also COVID-related grants out there from the state. So I don't know if they're going to give us a grant to do a parking lot, but I asked, and so I put that application in last week, and we'll see. There are also other smaller, like we can probably get grants for signs, computers. We might need a new laptop because we use one of the oldest laptops for voter registration that's still around in the state. We might need a new one of those. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up while Kathy was here is staffing. During that time period, 45, 60 days prior to the election, that's where you start getting inundated with your new voter registrations. And people today, already, people after July are clamoring for what? They want their ballot now. Guess what? They're not going to change their mind between now and November. They want to vote and get it over with. But you can't. You can't do it until it's 30 days before the election. But 30 days before the election, you betcha people are going to come in and want their absentee ballots now. So rather than inundating the staff at the office, which is what happened in this July election, because we had a lot of absentee requests, a lot of people wanted to update their voter registration, and we were inundating the front staff, taking them away from excise taxes and property taxes and all the other things that they do up there. Kathy and I talked about creating a stipend for an additional person. Have we identified the person yet? No, but we have an idea what we want them to do. But if we could have a person that would work for 6 to 8 weeks around the election, and that person would be dedicated to Kathy's needs for getting this stuff ready and getting it done. And that person could actually work out of this building. And so when people came for, or called the town office for absentee ballots, they want to vote early and all that sort of thing, we could send them here to the polling place and somebody could take care of the whole thing from start to finish. Because ideally, once you get close to the election, when people come in, they want an absentee ballot, you can do that process right there, and they can go in the other room and they can vote, seal it up, and give it back to you. We tried that for this July election, to use the assembly room, to have 2 voting booths, and just, again, with other work, with people, with me shooting loudly and all that stuff, it's just, it didn't work well. We were kind of stumbling over each other.
It didn't work because you don't have another way for them people to get out. So I tried it, and it was like, okay, that was kind of pointless. I mean, I had to take them around to the fire station to go out. That wasn't really an option, because you have people in the lobby, so you can't get them back out. I mean, there was no, because of the whole COVID, the 6 feet distancing, there was just no way to get them back out. So we did not, and traditionally, we do a lot of absentee voting right there in the building, so that when you do it by mail, you take the request, and then you put it in, you have to mail it out to them, and then they'll mail it back or try to bring it back to you in some way, but you're handling it many more times. When they come to do it, they're done. You give it to them, they seal it, put it in the envelope, and come back and give it to you, and you're done. There's a lot less steps, and a lot of people prefer to do that. They don't want to take it home to do it. I mean, some people came in trying to do it that way, and it's like, no, you're just gonna leave that application, and we're gonna have to mail it to you, because people who were trying to do regular business couldn't do it either. They were gonna be waiting forever in line.
Kathy, are you gonna educate the people to this system so that
I am.
they are aware of this ahead of time, and I think it'll help your flow go much better.
I do plan to do that, and I plan to let them know that they can come here to do absentee voting. I will, get it out there so they know when they can do it down here. We will have booths. That's my anticipation, is that, and I may even come down here, and most likely, a good part of the time, I would be down here too, because I can remote into the town office anyways, and I would probably be down here a lot, but it would just be nice that during that time that we can say, you can go right down there and you can get your absentee today, and you can go vote it today too. And they would be able to do it all right here. They could register to vote and absentee vote and everything here. It would take away a lot, and it would give regular business.
Maybe as we approach November, we could put together, maybe in October, put together some sort of Channel 11
I think it needs to
video.
Yeah, I think it has to happen sometime
Probably
at the
September.
end of September.
Yeah.
So that people, and even, I don't know, maybe people will listen to this and they'll realize that, we're gonna get a chance to absentee. I mean, I'm getting calls all the time right now to absentee, and how can we do this? And, so I mean, if I'm taking applications, which I can start taking applications now, but I don't have the ballots, until October. It would just be nice to be able to give these people some kind of inclination that, in October, you'll be able to go down and absentee vote right there at the building in person if you want to. Just, it'd be nice to let people know when they call even.
Right.
But yeah, by the end of September, definitely it needs to be out there so they know.
Obviously, we have to make it clear that we're not trying to stop somebody from voting. We're trying to give them a better
We just need a better
opportunity
option, and
a better option.
we could never turn, and we wouldn't, okay, I would make that quite clear to the staff, we would not turn anybody away, okay? If they wanted to come in, if they were there and they said, well, I just want to fill out my application and turn it in, okay, and we'll mail it to them, okay? We would still do that. We would not turn anybody away for anything like that. And we would just get it, we'd just forward it down here and we'd just mail it out. I mean, we still do that, but.
On
maybe also a public service announcement in the newspaper or something
Right.
in September, letting everyone know that this is going to be available. I think it's a great idea.
I think,
And this election right here in November, that'll notify everybody that ever wants to vote in any election, pretty much, you know what I mean, after that, if it was a, yeah.
Moody?
I think we're pretty fortunate, we have this building, and we are only exercising a small portion, and we maintain the whole building. I think it behooves us to, whatever renovations we can to make the town function more properly. I think it's a heck of an idea.
So if I can make a recommendation to the budget or the agenda, if you move the carry forward up to the next item,
Okay, so
it'll
let's-
flow right into this.
Let's move to discuss proposed carry forward amounts. We don't need to take a vote on this, right? We're on the,
As long as nobody's opposed to us
everybody,
holding the election.
is there anybody opposed to having elections here? So we'll look at the carry forwards.
So in your packets, you have this sheet with the small print on it. I apologize, I couldn't make it any bigger, but I tried to get everything on one page. So every year after we close the previous budget, we take a look at the money that was unspent in these articles, categories, and we propose carrying items forward. And Public Works, because it was a relatively quiet winter, they had money left over in several of their lines. And so Public Works for the last 5 years has had a special projects line, and that allows them the flexibility to do projects that come up. Work in front of the post office several years ago, the Reddings parking lot. These things were able to be done with money in the special projects line. Last year, we didn't use any money roughly out of the special projects line, so we had a lot to carry forward. So you see that first line there, special projects. Jeff and I are recommending taking $40,000 and putting in that special project line. That would do two things. That would help with some sidewalk work that Jeff has earmarked that needs to be done. It would also go towards the costs for paving this parking lot out here and getting it lined with parking spaces and so forth, and making it much more user-friendly for election day and for any other time that people come down here. In addition, the other items in that Public Works carried forward proposal are equipment repair, some money for the building, and some money for the gravel line. And those are normally, if there's money left over in those accounts, we normally recommend to carry it forward. Even though we're slowly replacing equipment, we still have a lot of older equipment that requires repairs and updates. And I will say that the team up there at the town garage had probably gotten more life out of equipment than most towns are able to do. So if you allow me to just go down through here, the next department is the fire department. They had a small amount of money left over, and Don has recommended $3,000 to be split in his vehicle and equipment line. The next one down is the general government. The general government had about $32,000 left over. We're asking to earmark $15,000 of that for the election. And that $15,000 would help fund a stipend for a position for a person for 6 to 8 weeks. Not all of it, just a small portion of it. But also a lot of those computer purchases, new doors, that sort of thing would come out of this line. Smaller lines under the general government, our code book update. We had a fairly large shoreline zoning update at the town meeting this year. That's expensive when we have to pay this company to update our ordinance books and online. I'm putting some money aside for code enforcement. Perhaps at another meeting I'll give you an update on how we're doing on hiring a code enforcement person. It's not going as smoothly as I hoped it would, but it's going about as well as I expected. So, computer, subscriptions, office, so that totals about $25,000 for general government. Library has about $3,000 they're recommending to put toward their roof repairs. And then the recreation, to maintain and upgrade the ball fields, they're asking to carry forward about $4,000. So in a typical year, the department heads and I would look at this and we would recommend carrying forward about $30,000 or $40,000 This year, we're asking to carry forward almost 99,000. And the largest portion of that would go toward the work that needs to be done down here. So we don't have to raise any money for taxation, it's already raised. We don't have to borrow any money, and I really hope to be able to offset some of this work with grants that we're able to get, but I don't anticipate a large amount of money from grants. So I normally recommend that you look at non-capital and capital separately. That last column down there at the bottom is all the surplus in capital, and we will be recommending bringing forward $156,199. All of that is carried forward to help pay for equipment purchases. You heard the road commissioner mention that they've had some loaders up at the town garage that they've been trying out. Well, they need that $124,000 carried forward to complete a new loader purchase. So those are the two requests that I'm seeking motions on. One would be for a non-capital carry forward of 99,000, and then a capital carry forward of 156.
Rudy?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Tim, because we did hit the road commissioner pretty hard during budget time. I'm glad to see some of it going back,
Good.
lessen up. The only other thing I would like, if we're going to completely pave this out here, which I think it needs to be done, I hope we do proper lining out there, whatever has to be done.
And Jeff and I didn't talk about that when we looked at it. But when you talk about lighting, you're talking about putting in new light poles in the parking lot?
Whatever it takes to light up that parking lot out there, because during
Either that or some portable lighting. I mean, we're gonna need,
because during an election.
I'm coming from over here, somebody's coming from over here, and they're going over to that door over there. I mean, that's gonna be a long way.
Yeah, I think
In November.
I think looking into portable lighting is probably the best thing right now.
Start with that.
I don't think we're at a place where we can run the wire and put light poles out there like they have at the junior high parking lot. So I don't think we're in that position.
You think it would take that much? That many poles to light that parking lot?
We'll look into it and let you know.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's where you're trying to get at.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Potentially have ice too, I mean, you could have, so I mean, people gotta be able to see where they're going. As I said earlier, if Granby falls, we're gonna be all in trouble.
Under that, we're gonna be selling canes.
All right, so looking for a motion to carry forward $99,000, the accounts as written.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to carry forward $99,000 to the accounts that are written here. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Now we're looking for a motion for $156,199.97 for carryover from capital accounts as written.
So moved.
Now we have a motion and a second to carry forward $156,199.97 in capital. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Looks like we're moving forward.
We will keep you posted for sure.
All right,
Just think lights.
discuss Beeline Cable franchise fees.
So at the previous meeting, the board had discussed essentially the shortfall in franchise fees to cover the budget for Channel 11. And that amounts around $23,500. So I think in your package you have a sheet that looks like this that kind of breaks down. At the top line there shows the $23,508 is what you need to collect. So those three boxes there indicate how much you're currently charging Beeline Cable subscribers at the 3% franchise fee rate. And the maximum rate allowable in the franchise agreement is 5%. So I tried to lay it out there pretty simply. Currently, you're collecting about $17,500. If you moved it to 4%, you'd collect $21,800. If you moved it to 5%, you'd collect $26,200, which would cover your shortfall. And you can see down there that if someone has broadcast cable, Their charge for that would go from $1.31 to $1.73, then to $2.18. For the basic cable, which is all the channels, $3.29 goes to $4.38, goes to $5.48. So it's about $1, per step to the average ratepayer. George Allen, I talked with him at Beeline. They're not opposed to this. In fact, they actually encourage it. They've got another franchise agreement in Farmington, and Farmington has been at 5% for years. It doesn't impact them as far as their number of subscribers. They know their subscribers are going to continue to go down anyways. And they've already got another rate hike coming because the cable providers that they work with have already raised their prices. And so whatever it costs to get basic cable, the costs are going up. Like we looked at last week, we run between 600 and 630 Madison subscribers. So this fee increase only affects those. It doesn't have any impact on Hanson Skowhegan's still at 3%, and they are still able to cover their costs at that. But they know it's going to change.
But this 5% would cover our cost.
It would. It would cover it with a little bit more.
Now, how much is Hanson? Whereabouts are they?
I don't know because Beeline makes up a real small portion of it. The rest of the money comes from Time Warner Spectrum. And so they may get enough in that Time Warner Spectrum to cover their portion of the budget. So essentially, if the board chose to take action on any change, I would just take those notes in the minutes and forward it to George Allen and Beeline, and we would make some alterations to the franchise agreement.
This 23,508, that's how much is needed to make it to having a balanced budget.
So the 23,508 is our portion for this coming year.
Yep.
Right now, at 3%, we're only collecting 17,500. So we're short by $6,000.
So we also kick in something, right?
We have budgeted $1,500 in the past. Used to be $1,000, then $1,500. So the option is you could leave it at that 3% and raise from taxation the other $4, $5, $6,000.
If you need 23. If you raise it to 4, that's going to be 20. That's going to be 23,375. If you got the 1,500 that we are putting in.
I see. So if you're doing a hybrid here, if you move to 4% and keep $1,500 raised from taxation, you'd be close to
Are
covering.
you saying 0 in taxation?
It's up. I mean, I either see the trend going one way or the other. The trend is either you're going to raise the franchise fee or you're going to raise more from the taxpayer, many of whom are not subscribers to Beeline Blue.
I think I'd rather go with 5.
The only question I have, it's always been, in years past, is are we putting them out of business? I mean, I don't want to raise money here that's going to put them out of competition with people unless they're just giving up on
So when you say they out of business,
Beeline cable TV.
well, first of all, a franchise agreement means you have no competition. So they don't lose to anybody for cable TV. They're the only game in
They
town.
lose to direct TV and to
They possibly could, or direct internet. But I think I shared this in an email, maybe with everybody. Cable subscriptions make up 1% of Beeline's cable business. The rest of their business is phone and email. And so they don't, George Allen told me they took their name TV out of their name years ago because they no longer offer cable TV. And like George Allen told me, he actually encourages it because it helps support the local cable access.
looking for a motion.
I move to 5%.
I have a motion and a second to raise the
Beeline Cable franchise fee to 5%. Any other questions? Mr. Go.
What are you gonna do with the excess money?
So that will, in the past, when we did all the bookkeeping, we kept that in a separate savings account for Beeline Cable. And when they became their own 501c3, back when Bruce Briscoe was involved with them as a selectman, they separated out their financing, and we ended up giving them that savings account. So that money is really what you're in charge of. So you're right, so if you have an extra $2,000 or $3,000 at the end of the year, that money can, I'm sure Tammy will track it for you, that money can be set aside, either to be given to Beeline or held in escrow if you need the extra money if their budget goes up or the subscriptions go down. So Tammy, the short answer is Tammy will track it for you.
Well, the only thing is, I hate to see Madison's excess money go into Beeline Cable. It's going to 2%, and Anson is scratching around whatever they are over there.
That's why the excess would be in your control, that's all.
We would get that money from Beeline Cable.
Yep, it comes in
It would
every
be in,
year.
it would be in an account for the cable TV station.
So we only are the money, and we're just gonna pay them the amount that we owe them.
And that's what they do, they,
Right.
Channel 11 invoices us every quarter for the same exact amount. So you take that 23,500 divided by 4, that's what we pay them every quarter. When they do their new budget next year, if that budget changes, then that number changes. But it goes into an account, it stays there until we pay it out.
So the 1,500 that is in the budget that we have for this year
Right.
will stay there.
Right. In past years, we've been overspending that because we've been more than $1,500
Yeah.
short. So we've spent $1,700, $1,800, $1,900 out of that budget line from taxation.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, we have one more. Yep. Discuss personal property write-off of closed business, handyman construction.
Yeah, account 471, the gentleman, this was a, self-employed individual. He has passed away. He has $14.42 and some change in outstanding personal property taxes. We only assessed about $200 worth of tools for the guy. He was a faithful payer for years and years and years and just got sick and they're behind. So in an effort to clean up the accounts, I'm recommending writing off that plus any applicable fees and interest.
Need a motion for that?
Yes, please do.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to write off $14.42 in interest and principal for handyman construction, 22 Foss Road. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Mr. Savage, any concerns tonight?
Just one or two of the sheriff's report. I don't know if you know the answers to them or not.
This is an amended report. It's a draft. but-
What's the draft? That's okay. But no, my understanding is there's possibly some personnel changes where we've lost people that's been here and they've moved on and we've got new. Is that true for that?
We're in process. So Deputy Lafreniere, Tyler Lafreniere, is taking the position with the sheriff's office elsewhere. So we're looking for a replacement, but I believe we've replaced Tyler's position with a already certified trained to the academy deputy.
I'm just wondering, is it going to cost us 30, 40, 50 grand to buy out from a different department or?
No, because we're replacing him with a academy trained deputy from the county. So we're not stealing him from another department. So Lafreniere went to the county and a county deputy is coming to replace Lafreniere.
In-house.
So it's kind of an even swap. Then you have Mason Wood, Deputy Wood, who's pulled over probably half the people in this room, myself included. He was a very gung-ho deputy. He is moved with his family to Florida, and so they're in the process of replacing him. As far as Deputy Mary and Deputy Dyer, as far as I know, they're still on the force. So
I guess, is there any way, Tim, that we can get, like, over the last even year or two, how many weeks or days we've actually had full staff? And maybe reconsider what we're doing? It seems like we're training a lot of people and watching them go off, and we're either paying training fees or we're retraining and losing them for another 20 weeks at the academy. If we're running for a 2-year period with three, maybe we ought to consider it. It just seems like we're brand new people all the time, whether they're leaving for something else or it don't seem cost effective. But like I said, maybe it's a lot better than I think, but I don't believe we've had 4 people on staff 6 months out of the 3 or 4 years we've been doing it.
And if you go back to when it first started with a staff of 5 deputies, the reason that the town recommended we go to 4 was exactly that. We never staffed the 5. And so I certainly can take a look at it. I think you're going to see this year, the one that we just closed, you're not going to see a $70,000 or $80,000 return from the county, because I think we had 4 people longer this year. It just so happens as now we enter into the new year, we're starting to lose and replace people again. But I will say, and I'm not extremely knowledgeable of policing and whatnot, but everybody is dealing with turnover and lack of staff on policing.
And I don't disagree with that, but I mean, if 3 has worked pretty efficiently for us for a couple, 3 years, I think it's worth at least exploring. Okay. And the only other question I have on it is, I'm trying to word it politically correct. Are these numbers that the people, the taxpayers pay, or are these for every deputy that works for Somerset County? So say Mr. Moody still worked for the county and he stopped 3 people on his way to work. Are them being recorded here? Because a lot of these names you see, they're full-time deputies that don't work for the Madison Division.
Right.
So are these numbers really accurate? Or are these numbers for every call or every incident that a deputy has covered in this period of time? So the question is it for three people, or is it for the 25 that work for the county?
Right.
And the names that are here, I lean towards the latter.
I'll get you an answer on that, because I know there's a lot of county deputies that are not dedicated to Madison that are picking up shifts that are open.
That's all I got.
What?
I'm all set.
Mr. Wilkin? Ms. Moody? My only question is on the food cupboard, food pantry.
Yep.
Are they in the process, I understand, of moving?
They are considering it. Calvary Pentecostal Church, Pastor Tim Haynes, they have had a small food and clothes pantry for years, and they've actually started working together. Tim Haynes is now on the food cupboards board, the people who can. If you don't know that Calvary Pentecostal also owns and controls what we refer to as the Log Cabin Church on Lakewood Road. Everybody knows where that is. Log Cabin Church is not functioning as a church right now, and they have a building out back. And that's a fairly large 1-story building with garage doors. And so my understanding is they're in conversation right now with the food cupboard to move their operation out to Lakewood Road, where everybody could be on one floor and you wouldn't have to deal with the accessibility issues that you have here. So that's not a done deal, but that's as much as I know.
We're gonna move from here to out in the country.
Yeah, 201.
201 Lake, yeah, on the 201 Lakewood Road.
Yeah, people are gonna be able to access it, I mean, other than, I guess nobody probably walks to get here, so,
If you're ever here on a Wednesday, the parking lot's pretty full.
you know, I guess it's probably gonna be a good deal.
All right, thank you. Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? All in favor? Open. All in favor? Motion carries. Return at 7:20.
We put up big